Now's your second year at UCLA. Now give us your feedback on what happened your sophomore year.
Well, my sophomore year, I obviously the freshman year was the last year that freshmen weren't eligible to play varsity. And to me, it was like a lost year. I went from this tremendously exciting winning the state championship in the greatest state basketball tournament in any state in Indiana, and going to a season where we didn't play for anything. There was no playoffs afterwards. We just had a regular season, and we got prepared and got acclimated to college life, which I think was a good thing. I really needed that year. But you're always looking ahead at the varsity, and you're looking at who's on the varsity, who's graduating, whose spot am I going to get, and that's just the way it is if you're a competitor. So I knew Henry Bibby was the two guard and played the wing position my senior year, and that's the position, or his senior year, my freshman year, and that's the position I worked at. I watched Henry, and I watched what he did. I watched and I tried to figure out how I would fit into the UCLA system, and it worked out very well for me for a while. I came to camp ready. I was ready. I knew what I wanted. I worked really hard in the off season, and I felt that I had earned a position, but I didn't get it. Coach went with a senior, and I was too immature to deal with that at the time. And when I look back at it, here I was, a sophomore, only 19 years old. I was the sixth man on a team that went 30-0 and won the national title last year and was predicted to win it all again. And I wasn't happy because I felt I should have been starting. Just wasn't a good. So the first half of the season was really, really good. Then again, my immaturity came in, and Coach Wooden had to put me down a little bit and explain to me, what was going on. So I started out real well, and then I came in and I played decent when I finally matured, and Coach Wooden sent a message to me, and it was a lesson well learned.
Gotcha. Now you're a junior season. Your teams won the championship, college championship. Now, what's the goal for your junior and senior season?
Well, at that time, you got to understand, that's Bill Walton's senior year. Bill Walton now is 60-0 at UCLA, or close to whatever his records were, because he hadn't lost a game. He went perfect his junior, his sophomore year. So we knew we were just going to go undefeated and win a national title. And obviously, it was important to try to get minutes there. And I didn't get the starting spot again, which I was upset about, but I had learned my lesson. I was more mature, and I went out and I just played really, really hard again. I was first man off the bench, and Coach Wooden actually started me my fourth game of the year. I just didn't start the first three. The fourth game of the year, what happened was we won the national title in St. Louis my sophomore year. Also that year, North Carolina State went undefeated, but weren't eligible for postseason play because of recruiting violations for David Thompson. So they were on probation. But the talk was, who was better, us or North Carolina State? So the two schools set up a meeting in the same site in St. Louis, a neutral site, where we were to meet North Carolina State. That was my first starting day at UCLA.
Wow. So your junior year, of course, you guys won the championship.
No, we didn't.
What happened?
No, we didn't.
What happened?
Well, then we were rolling along pretty well, and here we came to play Notre Dame at Notre Dame. And we had an 88-game winning streak, and we lost that game to Notre Dame. After we lost that game to Notre Dame, we went back to Los Angeles, and Coach Wooden changed the starting lineup. He took me out of the starting lineup. He put a freshman that was just really playing well. First freshman ever to start at UCLA, a guy named Marcus Johnson. But the problem was, Marcus Johnson played the right wing position, which was David Myers' position. When he came in, for me in the starting lineup, they moved David to the left wing position. The left wing position is not a position that is very productive. Dave wasn't happy about the move. Marcus was happy because he was in his normal position, but I wasn't happy because I went to the bench. I had the discussion with Coach Wooden because I knew what happened the year before that, and I explained to him my feelings about how well I thought with Marcus in, our set offense was better, our rebounding was better, but I also mentioned that I didn't think our defense was better, and I thought our press was non-existent. Probably a term I shouldn't have used with Coach Wooden, but we talked it out, and he kept me as a sixth man, and I played really hard, and we played decent but not great with Marcus in the starting lineup. Then we went to Oregon. And we had what Sports Illustrated called the lost weekend, where we lost to Oregon State on back-to-back nights. We were upset by both of those teams. It just seemed that we had a difficulty with the chemistry at that point, and we never really did get back on track to playing the dominant basketball that we had. I think at one point, Coach Wooden was so frustrated that he went back from the low post offense, which was designed for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Walton, back to the high post offense as an offense he ran without those two guys. And that told me that, there was, obviously some problems. So we went in and we made it all the way to the Final Four. In the semifinal matchup, again with North Carolina State, we lost in double overtime, I believe it was. And, it's probably, I feel that North Carolina State was a great team and they deserved to win the national title, but I do believe that year we were a better team.
Gotcha. Now, excuse me. Now you're a senior, and it's 1975. You guys, as you stated before, you went to the Final Four. Now, what is the goal? I know the goal is to win the title again, but as an individual for yourself, as a senior, now what's your goals?
It was hard to separate, when you were at UCLA, because what happened was we never dreamed of losing a game with Bill Walton. In fact, Dave Myers and Andre McCarter and myself, who came in together the year after Bill Walton and Jamal Wilkes, we felt that our goal was to keep up the UCLA tradition the following year of not losing one game, meaning going your entire career without losing a game of basketball. So, and as crazy as that might sound today, it was a feasible goal back then. We felt we could accomplish that. Once we lost the title, it hurt so bad. I can't even describe it because it was so unexpected. We didn't prepare ourselves for that. So the whole goal the next year was nothing but winning the title, and nobody gave us a chance. Nobody thought we were going to do it, because when you lose a player like Bill Walton and another player like Jamal Wilkes, you're not supposed to win another national title. Well, guess what? We did it, and basically that was the goal the entire year.
Gotcha. Now, of course, you played at UCLA under Coach Wooden. Can you give us the experience of what it's like playing for Coach Wooden, and also playing with great players like Jamal Wilkes, Bill Walton, Henry Bibby, guys of that stature?
Well, once you get to UCLA and you meet Coach Wooden, and you're wondering, okay, this is the magic man. This is the guy that's going to show us how to win basketball games, how to be basketball players. And the first thing he teaches you how to put your socks on. And that was like, it took me back. I'm saying, well, I surpassed Oscar Roberts. I won the state championship. I was an Indiana All-Star. You're going to tell me how to put my socks on? Well, the message was, pay attention to the details, because the small things is what makes the big things work. And that's the way Coach was. Everything was, I thought when I went there, like I said, I was 17 years old when we won the state championship. I thought I knew the whole game of basketball. I got to UCLA and I realized I didn't know anything. I learned so much there, from the smallest fundamental to how to put a team together. He was just an amazing individual. And you have to understand, when I got there, Coach Wooden was 61, 62 years old. So he had been doing this for a long time. So he had his practice plans and he had his program down to such a science that I feel I caught Coach at the best time, because Coach always, and there's one thing I always remember him saying is, never ever stop learning. Once you're through learning, you're through. And I believe Coach Wooden lived by everything he spoke of, and I believe he was the best coach ever in 1975 than he ever was himself. As far as the players are concerned, that's the wake-up call. You come in, everybody who comes to UCLA is an All-American. All of a sudden, you get there and you meet a guy like Bill Walton, Jamal Wilkes, Dave Myers, Marcus Johnson, Andre McCarter, Sidney Wicks was there before me, and all of a sudden, you become a role player. I mean, there were All-Americans sitting on the bench that wanted my minutes, and you had to do whatever was necessary to play your role, to form that part of that machine that would win a national championship. That's what you were there for.
Was the pressures at UCLA harder than the pressures at East Chicago, Washington? Dealing with the rivalries with Roosevelt, and also the pressures of going undefeated at UCLA. Give us a little feedback on that.
Pressure is a great word. Pressure can bring the worst out of you, and it can bring the best out of you. And I was the type of person that went to UCLA because I wanted the pressure. In fact, if you ask me today, what do I miss most about playing basketball, I would tell you it's the pressure, the feeling of going into every game with that intensity. You know, obviously we put that pressure on ourselves in Chicago because we had expectations for ourselves. And when you got to UCLA, everybody was out to beat you. Every time you walked into a gym, you were going to get somebody's best because they wanted to be that team. I mean, that guy, Dwight Clay, who hit the jump shot for that beat us the 88-game winning streak from Notre Dame, he had an article in the paper where he carries the DVD around with him. So in his own words, he could shut people up when he tells them about it. He says he still dreams about that game. That's what that one game did for that man. And that's what you meant. But what I truly believe is that, number one, if you can't handle the pressure, UCLA wasn't the place for you. You don't go there or you better leave. But I also believe that Coach Wooden recruited guys that wanted the pressure.